As Yaakov became old, says the Torah, he called his son Yosef, who was then the prime minister of Egypt, and requested of him that not to bury him in the land of Egypt, but rather to take him to Israel, to the city of Hebron, and bury him in the Ma'arat HaMachpelah. That was the designated burial spot for all the patriarchs and matriarchs. And then for the first time, Yaakov addresses a very sensitive and painful issue with his son Yosef. You see, many years earlier, as Yaakov and his family returned back from Haran to Israel, Rachel dies on the road. And Yaakov did not take Rachel to the Ma'arat HaMachpelah to bury her in that special place, but rather buried her on the side of the road near Beit Lechem. And so Yosef always carried this pain in his heart. Why did my father not take my mother Rachel to the Ma'arat HaMachpelah with all the patriarchs and matriarchs where she belongs? Yaakov says to his son Yosef, I know that you're very upset, but know that your mother willingly chose to be buried on the side of the road. Why? Because she saw in prophecy that many years later, her children are going to be exiled from the land of Israel by the Babylonians, and they're going to pass by the road of Bethlehem, and I'm going to be available there. My tombstone is going to be there so they can come and they can cry and they can ask for me, and I will go up to heaven and beseech God for my children. And as the verse says, that God tells Rachel, stop crying because you have a lot of reward for your good acts, and your children are going to return to their borders. So Rachel, Yaakov tells Yosef, she selflessly gave up her privilege of being in the Ma'arat HaMachpelah so that her children should come and have a place of comfort and a place to cry and a place to pray. And so Rachel is teaching us a great lesson, and that is that in life there are many times that we end up, we have to give in and we have to give up our privilege and our rights and so on and so forth. So there's two kinds of attitudes. One attitude is, why is it always me? Why do I always have to give up? Why do I always have to forgo this great benefit and this great joy? But when you have that attitude, so then you're always going to be angry and have a lot of resentment and live with bitterness. But then there's another attitude, and that is that you see this as a privilege, and I'm giving up my benefit, I'm giving up my great opportunity for others, or for a higher cause, for a higher value. I look at it not as something which is bad and not something which I'm losing, but on the contrary, I'm looking at it as a great honor and great privilege to give up my privilege and give up my benefit for the sake of others. And as the Torah says, that God says to Rachel, Ki yesh sachar lepu'olasech, that there's a lot of great reward. God pays back many times over. And this is the attitude that we should have. Give up of yourself for the sake of others, for a greater value. After all, the medal of honor is given not to someone that is living a selfish life and dining in fancy restaurants, but rather to one that did something extraordinary and a selfless act for the benefit of others. Have a very good Shabbos.